Hi guys! So if you didn't watch my last video, I should start off by saying that this is kind of an unofficial part 2 to that one. It's probably not required watching, but I will probably be referencing some stuff brought up in that one, so absolutely feel free to check it out if you haven't already. Also, this will probably be one of those videos where it's just a lot of talking, and yes, that's every video. But I just mean there probably won't be a lot of visuals or B-roll or really a lot of editing at all, because it's just a very straightforward kind of topic, and I can only fill so much space with pictures of Jade's new freaky little monkey pet, or whatever that thing is that Skylar comes with. So if that's not your thing, not the kind of video you're here for, I completely understand. No hard feelings, I promise. But of course, we are gathered here today to talk about what's going on with Rainbow High. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? What's going to happen in the future? All good questions that I hope to discuss, because obviously it's a hot topic, and there's a lot of discussions already out there, but with discussion also comes a lot of confusion. Let's face it, a change is scary. That said, I do think a lot of the conversations regarding Rainbow High are getting a little out of hand, but we'll get to that. There really isn't any other way to start this than just going right into it. So to start, what is happening with Rainbow High? There's a lot of different words flying around, right? Reboot, rebranding, soft reboot, devolution, etc. Personally, I prefer the term rebranding because that just feels like the most apt description to me, but really it's all semantics. Basically, Rainbow High is changing. They're changing the branding, the aesthetic, and the focus of the brand. I wouldn't necessarily say that Rainbow High had a mature aesthetic to begin with, because that feels like a bit of a loaded word when it comes to toys, but it definitely felt in the realm of young adult, right? It had a big emphasis on luxury and designer fashion to the degree that a lot of other fashion dolls did not. And this new Rainbow High, right out of the gate, they are clearly very, very juvenile. The designs are simpler and more childish. The gimmicks are ones that are known to be very popular with younger children. Glitter and slime and cute animals. They're just very obviously meant for a younger audience than the previous dolls, and I don't think that in of itself is a controversial statement, it's just fact. No, the big question is instead, is this a bad thing? Is it bad that they're rebranding and changing everything to suit a younger demographic? And I can't answer that question. It's not for me to say yes or no, because there's no definitive answer to begin with. I have issues and I have complaints, but those are what we call opinions. But it also leads to another question. Is Rainbow High dying? Is this the end of Rainbow High? That one I can answer, and I think the answer is no. I think if MGA really wanted to axe Rainbow High, to cancel Rainbow High, they would just do that rather than pouring money into new dolls for a complete overhaul of the brand. No, I think MGA is doing this because they firmly believe in their heart of hearts that this is a good and profitable move for Rainbow High, and they want it to succeed. Because, let me tell you, I have witnessed the fall of many, many doll lines. I've seen what happens when a doll line is on death's door. I know the signs, and I'm just not necessarily picking them up here. Because usually what will happen is that the company will just quietly get out releases that were already in production, already planned to come out, and you'll just see them kind of dwindle out. They'll be distributed to less and less stores. They might only come out in certain countries, usually Europe, and then they'll just disappear. When a company wants a doll line to end, they don't typically spend money on marketing and tooling and new branding to completely refresh the line, because that's just a complete waste of money, isn't it? That doesn't make any sense from a business standpoint. There's another theory floating around that MGA is, in a word, sabotaging Rainbow High so that they can focus on the Playline relaunch of Bratz. And I think that is also untrue, personally. I think it's a fair assumption to make, actually, because toy companies, they have a finite amount of resources. They have budgets they have to allot for. And with Bratz getting more and more focus placed on it, then it would make sense that some of those resources are being reallocated and other brands don't have as much to work with. But again, like, this just doesn't look like a situation where this is happening to the extent some people think it is. I think Rainbow High is very clearly working with less resources than before, but you have to keep in mind that reboots, rebrandings, whatever, they don't just happen. They require time and planning and money to make happen. And while I think there's evidence that Rainbow High's rebranding in particular was quite sudden and pretty rushed, it still doesn't read as something a company would put effort into if they weren't confident on some level that it would make them money in return. Does that make sense? Killing one brand to lift up another just seems like a terrible business decision to me. And I don't know, I don't run a toy company, but just speaking as someone with common sense, I guess. Like, okay, let's look at it more broadly. A lot of MGA's brands right now are a lot quieter than they used to be. LOL OMG has been putting out very, very few releases over the last year. Not Surprise seems to only be releasing in Europe. Remember what I said earlier. Mermaids. Actually, the exact same deal as Na. Dreamella, I haven't even heard that name in years. I don't know where that girl is. That leaves literally only Rainbow High and Bratz. Now, do you really think MGA is going to intentionally kill Rainbow High so that they are left with only Bratz to put in the fashion doll market when they don't know how successful Bratz will be as a playline brand in this day and age? And they could be massively successful, that's entirely possible, but we don't know yet. So it just really doesn't make any sense that they would do that, in my opinion. Another factor is, of course, that Rainbow High is extremely successful. Anytime a news article pops up about them, anytime Isaac Larian talks about them on LinkedIn, it's to boast about how financially successful they are, how they are just selling and selling and selling. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, because this is usually something that doll lines only do when they are lacking in sales, when toy companies look at them and decide they need to change something and refresh the brand in order to make them more successful. So that really begs the question then, why was this necessary? If Rainbow High was making so much money, why would they not continue to just do what they were already doing? I think I do have the answer, or at least I have a theory that in my head just makes a lot of sense. And I talked about it a little bit in that last video. Rainbow High was making money, absolutely. The dolls were selling on a purely financial metric. They were finding success. However, if you actively collected Rainbow High, you probably noticed very often that dolls would sit on shelves for a very, very long time. They would go on clearance. They pretty rarely sold completely out, which seems pretty at odds with these claims of selling extremely well, right? I think the issue is not that Rainbow High was unsuccessful, but that they were unsustainable. And I'll explain what I mean. Let's look at the year of 2022. Every single month of that year, and I mean every month, there was some kind of big release. There were 3 different spin-off lines that came out that year, crossover lines, collector doll releases. It was literally non-stop Rainbow High. And it was exhausting, right? It was hard enough for collectors to keep up with. Never mind someone who is just like an average consumer or buying stuff for kids in their life. They're for sure not going to buy all of these releases. And I think Rainbow High just put out such a massive amount of product that, yes, they happened to sell more than other doll brands at the time, but because there was so much stuff, it didn't necessarily translate into profits. Because the public just absolutely could not keep up with everything. They couldn't buy everything. And on top of that, the prices were ridiculous. They were often like complete nonsense. They didn't seem to make any sense. There was no real standard to go off of. And Again, that's something that's already pretty difficult for dedicated collectors to follow. Imagine how hard it is for just the average customer or a kid who wants a doll and doesn't necessarily understand that $50 to $80 is a lot of money. And Rainbow High was kind of able to get away with this for a while because they developed this reputation as a sort of collector's brand, a brand that was comfortable with targeting and engaging with its adult audience, that actively listened and took feedback from them, that had quality standards that were impressive enough to rival actual adult collector products. This was something they very intentionally leaned into. And this is something I think Rainbow High maybe should not have done. Or I don't know. I think the products we got out of it were nice. Definitely some great dolls, obviously, but let's face it. Adult collectors really are not the audience you want to cater to when you're a children's fashion doll brand. Us, adult collectors, we are some entitled, picky bitches. Okay, maybe that was a little mean, but it's true, and I honestly say that with nothing but love and affection in my heart. But if you, as a brand, want to focus on us and cater to us and charge us premium prices, you need to be prepared to put yourself through absolute hell for it. And I don't think Rainbow High was prepared to do that. If you just look at the products that were specifically put forward as adult collector pieces, Maria Garcia, Roxy Grand, the Paris Hilton doll, for how expensive they were absolutely not up to par. And we let them know that. These dolls were torn apart all over social media, which we know MGA paid very close attention to. And also they underperformed in sales too. So in all honesty, no, I'm not surprised at all that Rainbow High looked at the sales metrics, looked at the audience, and realized, maybe these are not the people we want to target. Maybe this is not where the money is because it's not translating and it's not panning out the way we wanted it to. So here's what I think happened. And I want to stress that I have absolutely no proof for what I'm about to claim. I've never been to MGHQ. I have no idea what goes on in there. But when I think about the Rainbow High rebranding, this is just what plays out in my head. So the Rainbow High team, whoever they are at, let's say, early 2023, they're looking at the data. They're realizing that they are constantly pumping out products that aren't giving them the profits they want. They're trying to please an audience that isn't nearly as lucrative as they thought they were. And the most expensive products they're putting out specifically for this audience are flopping. You'd want to change a few things too, right? But I do honestly think it goes a little further than that. I think at some point Rainbow High was put under some new direction, as in like employee-wise. And again, I don't know this for sure. I don't have any solid way of confirming this, but maybe some of those resources being reallocated to Bratz involved some employees, some designers, etc. And it's kind of like a story as old as time, right? Someone new comes in and they have all these big ideas of what they want to implement. They have their own vision. And I say this because a lot of the decisions made in the rebranding come off as decisions made by someone who doesn't really have a big emotional investment in the brand. Because I think a team that had worked on this brand for years and years would be a lot more protective of its identity. Like, I can totally see someone completely new coming in and being like, okay, let's look at the numbers. Poppy, she doesn't sell that well. Cut her out completely. Never mind that she's been a core character for years. We don't need her. What does market research say kids like these days? Glitter and slime? Put it in. I don't care that this has no continuity with what we spent 3 years establishing. Slather those dolls' faces with glitter right now. And I think that's my big issue here with the rebranding. It's not that it exists necessarily, because I actually think Rainbow High is shifting its priorities to be more thoughtful with its releases and to primarily target children is a good move, and something that will likely be a lot more profitable for them in the long run if they play their cards right. And by the way, I think it's perfectly valid to feel some amount of disappointment regarding the loss of more adult-oriented products in Rainbow High. Like, we are definitely losing some really cool additions to the doll aisle, and it was definitely fun while it lasted to have a company that would have this back and forth with adult collectors. I'm just saying it makes sense that this is what happened in the end is all. Now, my issue with the rebranding is that it was just executed so strangely, and in a lot of ways quite poorly too. First off, the dolls themselves come off as incredibly rushed. There are designs and concepts here that are just straight up reused, and the designs that aren't just recycled, like, I look at them and something just feels, I don't know, like they weren't completely thought through. Because obviously they want to go for this very whimsical glitter slime rainbow explosion aesthetic, which, mind you, is not new territory for MGA. They were doing this before Rainbow High ever came out, but they're also not committing to it, so the dolls feel very half-baked conceptually. And I think, if anything, that is what is going to hurt them way more than just the simple fact this rebranding exists. Because, I mean, we adult collectors, we can complain all we want, but if we're not being factored in anymore, then we're simply not going to affect what happens at all. And I'm at peace with that. Like, that's fine. Targeting children isn't going to hurt Rainbow High. Putting out low-effort product is going to hurt Rainbow High. If you're going to switch to this new aesthetic, then, like, switch to it, commit, go all out, actually put out products that are going to connect with the group you want to target, instead of putting out products that are basically just watered-down, less impressive versions of stuff you've already put out, with these weird gimmicks arbitrarily tacked on. It all just feels very dated and out of touch to me. It doesn't feel like a genuine, thoughtful effort to target a younger audience. It just feels like they're stumbling around in the dark, throwing stuff around and seeing what sticks. It's a tight line to walk, I know. There's this kind of pervasive idea among some adult collectors that if we're not the target audience, then we have no right to criticize the products. But that's only true to an extent. If the criticism amounts to something like, well, this doesn't personally appeal to me, therefore it's bad, then yes, that's not a fair criticism to make. But just because something is for children doesn't mean it's above criticism entirely. Children deserve high-quality, high-effort products just as much as we do. And it's not that I think the new dolls are absolute garbage. They're not. They're, like, mostly fine. Except for Violet. She's awful, but we know that. But they do kind of set a worrying precedent for the future if this is the direction they really want to take the brand. Because it feels like they're doing the right thing, just not necessarily executed in the way it needs to be. And, like, I don't know, I could eat my words. Maybe kids will absolutely love these dolls, and glitter slime is gonna rule the toy aisle again for the next 5 years. That's actually entirely possible. But I guess my advice for Rainbow High moving forward is just put more thought into it, commit to it more, and dig a little deeper about what's in this modern age in 2024 children are looking for in fashion dolls. Because, I am the person MGA needs to listen to. Literally, sometimes I'm just talking and I'm like, who am I to be saying this at all? But yeah, I think I've more or less made all the points I wanted to make. And I want to emphasize that this video is intended to be a discussion more than anything. I'm not here to tell you how to think or how to feel. I am simply putting my own thoughts forward, contributing to this ongoing conversation, and hoping to hear your thoughts in return, whether you agree with me or not. So, of course, it's your turn now. Go down there in the comments and let me know all your thoughts on the Rainbow High rebranding. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you mad at it? Do you want to see it succeed? Also, what is your advice for Rainbow High moving forward? How would you like to see them handle this new direction? Or do you wish they never would have changed directions at all? Tell me literally everything, all of it, everything on your mind, and, thank you so much for just sitting there and listening to me talk for however many minutes. I actually genuinely appreciate it so much. So when you're done with that, just be sure to like and subscribe for any future fashion doll content. Thank you.